Hi, this is Kelly Borsheim at BorsheimArts.com, and I'm going to continue this series called Painting Castelvecchio. It's a village up in Valeriana in Tuscany, between Florence and Lucca. The last time I talked to you, I think, and maybe some of the other times, I was telling you that when you do a painting or a composition in stone or marble or bronze or whatever, you always should remember that everything that you do to the painting reinforces the idea of why you made it. I think in this issue, I'm going to share something kind of maybe stupid, I don't know, but I tend to sabotage myself a lot. I have a fear that what I'm doing is not going to look as good as what I want it to look like in my head, even though what's in my head is not always really clear. Sometimes it's kind of clear and clearer than what I've done. But anyway, what happens to me a lot, unfortunately, love that sculpture by Jane de Decker and the other one by Vasily Fedoruk. And then there's two of mine up there. Anyway, I started telling myself it was too cold. Okay, it's raining outside, so that's the perfect time to paint, isn't it? And yet, I was putting the sculpture aside, and anytime I got any good weather, I would go out and make a little sculpture of something, but only for an hour or two. And then oh, my house is too cold, I don't want to do this. So, the problem with me is, I know that I do these things, and I do them often, but when I actually get to a point where I recognize it and I start to get angry because I watch the days go by and I look back and I think, what have you done? I know I've done things all day long, but I didn't make art. So what's wrong with this picture, and what do I really want? Do I want to do this or not? So I start wondering at some point, is my anger gonna overcome my fear? And anyway, so I moved this, I'm hanging laundry right now actually, but I moved this up into my bedroom because I have a pellet stove heating my bedroom, and I'm trying not to heat the other parts of the house just so I don't need to, I'm one person. Anyway, so I set up my little easel here right next to my bed. I'm almost sitting on my bed right now. Anyway, so I started to work on this, and the other day I came in and I started to develop. First I knocked back all these. Remember how I told you this was annoying me? I'm so sorry for the glare. I don't have good lighting in this room. Another excuse. Anyway, I knocked down these villages here so I didn't have the high contrast that I was having between this. And then I decided to get in here. And then, as I told you, I stand back and I look at the painting and I say, what's the worst? And go fix that. So, I decided that the worst was I really need to get paint onto these areas that I don't have paint on and start slowly bringing everything up. However, what happened was the other day I started to knock down this into the darks because I do have a hard time keeping the darks, which is, as I mentioned before, the reason you put in a Campitura, which is an overall feel color painted on your canvas, or in this case I'm painting on wood. Because it's hard to keep that dark, so it'll help it never become too light. But this was a night scene and I want to keep it that way, or at least I think I did, because that's another problem I have, is I have a bad case of indecision. And so anyway, so I started to do this. I was trying to fix some of the perspective, trying to get the tones to be a little bit more different here, so I had something more activity-wise going on. I started to put in these things, and then I was getting angry with myself because I thought I wanted to keep this loose as well, and also as I go back I wanted it to be even more loose. So anyway, today when I got home from the driving school, I decided to use a palette knife because I always wanted to try something different, and also this is kind of what I do sometimes, and I'm at a point where I've done tight work most of my life because that's what my training is, but I'm wanting to loosen up a little bit. I really don't know how to get there because every time I try to do something simple I end up saying, but I really like the detail that gets into it, and I really like that quality of mysterious. I don't like too abstract. I like this, and I just don't know how to be playful, I think. But then I say, well, what's wrong with what I like? And so I go back and forth, you see, because everything's connected and everything is true. So anyway, so I decided to put some paint in here, and this is where I am now. Do you see the textures that I've gotten from the palette knife? They're not perfect. I'm just trying to lay stuff in because, as I admitted before, I tend to put stuff in too high contrasty and then I back off of it. And I tell myself it's because I really like the layers of colors underneath something. I like the juiciness that's going on in here. You see that? Okay, so now I have a problem because I've got too much going on here that's quite different as far as one painting, one idea, one piece, one method of consistent working. So how do I go from this high texture stuff here to the softer texture I've got just in the immediately behind it? What am I thinking? But this is what I'm doing, and this is the part that I don't know if a lot of people understand it, because they think, oh, you have talent, oh, you have this, oh, you're so blah blah blah. What they don't get is for every painting that they see finished, or every sculpture that they see finished, or bas-relief, or any kind of creative endeavor, weaving, everything, there's all the things that you didn't do well that you're too embarrassed to show, or things that you did, like, for example, why am I making this small painting here of my little village? In part, it's because I have to eat, I have to pay rent, and a small painting is more likely to sell, and I like this view. I'm doing things that are fun. In another part, it's part of the sabotage thing I told you about. When I'm trying to do these bigger paintings that I've been working on for off and on for years, more off than on, sadly, I get afraid because it's going somewhere, and then I get to a point where I freeze and I think, okay, go away, do another painting that teaches me something that is related to what I'm trying to get past in the other painting. And it's a smaller project, I can be done with it faster, I can learn on it, and then I won't ruin the big painting, which has a lot of work involved. And so I do that a lot. I go back and forth a whole lot of times. And I justify it because that's kind of the way I want to get things done. But it is true, I have to keep going with the finances as well as pushing myself to create new things. And, you know, I am my own worst enemy, to be honest, because I would be better at this if I would do it all the time. And sometimes, well, we had a big snow on the 1st of March, and it was glorious, and my first time it snowed while I've been in Italy, and I went out and actually enjoyed it and had fun with my neighbors. And when I got in that night, I thought, what have you done today? Oh, well, nothing to do with art, and I justified my behavior. Probably would justify it again, because that's, at some point, life is there to be lived, isn't it? So anyway, here's my little printout of my photo reference. Do you see how much darker it is? And it really emphasizes the light area here is the subject, and then boom, 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 you have these little street lights in the distance, and you can kind of make out, if you really look at it, to see that what's going on in there. And that's another thing I struggle with is right now I'm having to work with photographs. And I don't enjoy it because my training comes from life training, and it's a very different thing. I find photos really, really hard because my training is more to paint what you see. And if I work from a photograph, it looks from a photograph. The same way as if I want to paint a still life, if I work with plastic leaves versus real leaves, you can tell because I know how to paint what I see. And I want to branch out from that. And so I don't really like it when my paintings look like a photograph, and even though people think that's a compliment, it's not really where I'm wanting to go. Because if you really look at a lot of the old art in the museums, you can tell it's a person, you can tell it's an individual, but you never ever confuse it with a photograph. That is what I would really like. What that is about is learning design. And that's what the schools have a hard time teaching, I think, is because design is something maybe more personal, and there are things that you can do. If I had gone back in hindsight and knew that I would choose to be an artist instead of thinking I wanted to be anything that would earn me money instead, although I went for mathematics and underwater photography, even though I hate cold water, so, and to me cold water means basically tepid for other people. Anyhow, I'm digressing. So back to the design part. When I stood back and looked at this painting again, I remember I told you I had to decide if I'm going to put in this ambulance. Do you see that here? So it's a white ambulance. There's a road that comes down here before we get into Maria and Renzo's house, and then there's a little parking thing. So I kind of know what's going on in there. But when I took a look at my painting, because in the end, I'm not painting a recreation of a photograph, I'm making a painting. The painting has to work itself regardless of what the model, whether it's a live model or a photograph or something out of my head. Nobody cares about what the model is. They only care about the finished work, okay? So when I looked at my painting, I thought, all right, to listen to my own advice, I want to keep this circular collection of rectangular shapes sweeping back into this. So I don't want light here. I don't want anything light. I want the dark to emphasize a circle, okay? I kind of have this started here with this roof that's in the foreground, and this is part of the street that goes in, and there are little cars that are around there. I decided I don't want those either. I may put something in just to break up so this is not a total triangle, but anyway, right now this is what I'm trying to develop because that's the weakest thing. It's what I don't know what I'm going to do with that. So that's why I want to pull that in forward, and then I'm going to keep playing with this stuff. But right now my decision was I want to have dark in here, so I'm sort of making up what's going in there, although I know what it is, and I can go walk over to the village and take a look. But anyway, I'm developing this. Before I go to bed this evening, which I hope is not 4 in the morning again, I have to decide, am I going to let this dry and harden this way, or am I going to take my favorite little flat, very soft paintbrush and lightly, very lightly in this case, because I don't want to undo the thing that I'm experimenting with trying to do. If anything, I might go through this painting and put a little more texture into this, a little less as I go back. I haven't decided yet, but some part of me thinks, hey, Kels, you're doing a good job of pushing out of what's normal for you, and now don't go back and negate the whole thing. And you know, the thing is, I need to give myself leeway to say, maybe this painting didn't turn out like I thought I wanted it to be, but you know what? It's a process. I have to go through this to figure this out. I have to figure out why I can't get this perspective here looking right. I need to be smart. I need to learn something every time I do something. So it may be something that I either keep myself or I sand down and paint over it, or I have no idea. We'll have to see how it ends. But I just need to be careful because we do make decisions and then we undo them, because getting out of our comfort zone is a little difficult. And anyway, so compositionally speaking, I'll keep this dark. I want to develop this next, and that's what I'll probably be doing. And I found that, one, I talk too much, and two, when I'm aware of myself, it's really hard for me to focus on doing the creating part. I always tell my students when I'm teaching that I don't talk and think at the same time. So, and I'm a little bit dyslexic, so sometimes I say left when I mean right, or this and that. So I find it messes with my head actually to have words in it when I'm actually trying to do something. And in this case, I'm really trying to experiment. If I had more understanding of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, maybe I wouldn't sound so wishy-washy to you. And I don't know if this video helps you. I'm making it because maybe if you're an artist who struggles with time, with fear, with anger, with sabotage, maybe if you know that you're not the only one, there's another nut job out there, and it happens to be me. So anyway, the end thing that I always use to sort of kick myself in the pants is every day goes by, and at the end of the day, am I happy with what I did? Did I enjoy my life? Because once I'm gone, that's it. I mean, I might as well do the best that I can with what I can, decide what I really, really want to do, because I can't do everything, and I do tend to have a desire to do everything, and then I end up getting nothing done or lots of little things half done, and I don't know, I just feel like it's a mistake. I really, really, really want to be able to do these things. So I have to focus on this stuff and make it happen. And I'm going to stop talking now because that's the only way it's going to happen. Anyway, if you'd like to see some work that I actually have finished, and some of it is for sale, some of it's already been sold, thank goodness. But please go to BorsheimArts.com, BorsheimArts.com. Thank you very much for watching. Share this video, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'm trying to figure out all that stuff too. So I really, really appreciate your taking along the journey along with me and helping me work through these fears by feeling sort of committed to sharing with you however my strange process is. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.